Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. You made news in these parts yesterday.
And I can't. You know what? Somebody said something to me, and I'm trying to unplug the best I can, and I haven't been all that successful. I'm never all that successful at unplugging altogether. But I guess something I said in like a mailbag or something like that got regurgitated as
headlines. Headlines.
Yeah, it was so stupid, man. Like I answered a question about like running backs and edge rusher, and I think it was like someone asked me like, would the Bears still add to their roster? And I said something along the lines of like, well, yeah, like it sort of depends on, at running back, like what happens with Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, and obviously opposite Montez Sweat, like, is Dio going to play inside or outside on passing down, those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if like they get a week or two into camp and it doesn't look right, well, yeah, like then you look at some of the guys that were out there, and then I listed some of the guys that are out there. It wasn't like real interest yet, know. It's just like, hey, like if this doesn't work out or this does not look right to the new staff, a week or two into camp, these are some things they could look at, which is standard for any team.
Correct.
Like
every
year.
The way
this stuff works is like if you have a position you're not 100% on, a lot of teams will carry that into camp and say, okay, like let's get a look, and because you don't really know until they put the pads on, right? Let's get a look, and if we don't think we have quite enough, like then we can always double back and look at our free agent list. And edge rusher is one of the ones, guys. Like of course, where I think this goes back to Jadeveon Clowney doing that series of 1-year deals where sometimes Yannick Ngakoue was one of these guys over the years, like where some of these guys wait and say like we don't want to like there's no reason for us to sign something we'll regret in the spring. Let's see how things play out in camp, and then those guys can sign like 1-year $10 or $15 million deals somewhere, in August.
It's amazing. On a mailbag, you get aggregated.
Yeah, well, that's the way it is now. I mean, I think it's shout out to like ML football or whatever it is. They have experts at twisting words and all of that too. They'll say some outrageous stuff too. Like I think like I've read a few different times online now, like that the Browns have someone special, and it was like in reference to Shedeur Sanders, and then like a week later it'd be like the Browns have their QB1 in reference to Joe Flacco. So I think they say anything that'll get a reaction. Thanks, Elon. I guess that's what happens when you monetize engagement.
That's it.
This country.
Exactly. So we've got next.
Sorry for the media lesson.
All good. A week from next Friday, will be the last real weekend that everybody's going to get to enjoy. Because the following week, the 25th, the Bears are back at camp. The rest of the league is. I'm looking at the TV right now, and they're showing highlights of Aaron Rodgers throwing at Steelers camp.
Yep.
Do you believe they're good enough now, if let's assume they get T.J. Watt signed, they're good enough to win the AFC?
I'm hesitant just because I think it would take a lot of things going right, and if all those things do go right, then yeah, they can. But I think it would take Aaron obviously playing at a high level, Jalen Ramsey playing at a high level, maybe being an upgrade over Minka Fitzpatrick, who's obviously out of there, Darius Slay holding up a corner, DK Metcalf, that transition being seamless. They get what they think they're going to get out of Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, as their complementary pieces at receiver, and then the young line comes together. I actually feel better about the offensive line than most people do. I think we've got a really good team. I'm not saying Rodgers made a mistake going there, wherever. They've got a really good team. It's just the strength of the AFC, and the idea that you're going to have to beat some combination of Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Houston, you're going to have to beat those teams in succession in the playoffs. Are they good enough to do that? I think that's a tough question just based on the weight of the conferences and the balance of the conferences, where, I think at the top end, the AFC is just I mean, I think the last couple of years has been and probably will continue to be historically strong.
Albert, when it comes to Kirk Cousins, I don't think that he's done, but is he just confused as far as the terminology for Atlanta? That's why he's behind the 8 ball, behind Michael Penix Jr.?
I mean, I think Kirk is kind of where he's at in part because I think he's willfully kind of disengaged himself a little bit from the team. And, I know there was a point now, like he was the mini camp, but I know there was a point where, like late in OTAs, where he'd only been on the field once for them in the spring. And, I think it's been kind of awkward and weird and different for the coaches. And then they're going to get into training camp and we'll see how that goes. I just think it's the product of a weird situation, Hoodie. And look, like I think part of it too was like last year, the effects of the Achilles injury coming back from that, combined with the progress that Michael Penix was making, just made it kind of like a simple equation for them where they weren't getting enough out of the quarterback position and they had a good option there. And really for them, like it was more like, where are we going to be in 2025? And, I think they envisioned a scenario where they were going to be in a better spot if Penix was their quarterback in 2025. So why not get that started a little early? So it's a weird situation in general for sure. But I don't know how engaged Kirk Cousins has been. And, we'll see what sort of opportunity there is for him to change teams, and then how receptive he is to that with his no trade clause once we get into August.
Yeah, you're mentioning Kirk Cousins. Hoodie's talking about Michael Penix. We've talked about him. The Kirk Cousins info that's in this new quarterback series, I think it's going to be interesting because he would never have signed there had he known what was going to happen.
Well, the one thing I've already seen, I haven't seen any of the series yet, but the one thing I have seen already was like there was that quote where he said something like, well, if I knew I had a good situation in Minnesota.
I have it. Certainly, if I had that information around free agency, it would have affected my decision. I had no reason to leave Minnesota with how much we loved it there if both teams are going to be drafting a quarterback high. But I've also learned in 12 years in this league, you're not entitled to anything. It's all about earning your spot and proving yourself.
He was QB1, though. He lost the job. He was the guy.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. No, but I mean, if he's in Minnesota, I mean, here's the thing, Hoodie. Like, if he was still in Minnesota last year, I'm sure. Look, you got to put yourself in his shoes, right? And if you're Kirk Cousins, the way you're looking at that is, like, J.J. McCarthy didn't play last year. J.J. McCarthy got hurt, and Kirk Cousins was in a system he knew, with receivers he knew, with top shelf talent everywhere, a team that won, 15 games. Like, I think, if you're Kirk Cousins, you're looking at it and saying, I would have gotten the full year in Minnesota. I would have played awesome. I would have had a great year. And, and then maybe Minnesota and maybe the Vikings trade me after the year, but my value is much higher where I would have an opportunity to play somewhere else versus, where his value was, coming out of the year in Atlanta, and I think that's a huge part of it. And look, like, I think part of it too for him, and just, again, putting yourself in his shoes is like, when you look at it, and I know this was part of it for him. I can remember the reporting I did at the time was like he wanted, and it's the same sort of mentality Sam Darnold had coming out of Minnesota this year. It's like, I want to go to a place that's going to make me the starter for more than a year.
Right.
I want to have a couple of years of runway, and part of that relates back to having the Achilles injury, where you're coming off of the Achilles, and it's like, okay, like, how do I get my career restarted? Well, it might take some time, so you do want to have some runway. And he thought he would have that runway in Atlanta, and obviously he didn't wind up getting it.
Hey, when are you coming to Chicago? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the Midwest first, so I'll probably be there end of July, beginning of August somewhere. I'll keep you guys abreast of all of that.
Yeah, let me know, because we're going to get sushi at that place.
Absolutely. That place doesn't look like much, but it's fantastic. It's like a strip mall, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I'll be there.
You got it. All right, have a great day. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Albert Breer on the Yingling Hotline.
Yingling, the oldest brewery in America.
And he's brought to you by Brandon, Mr. Finance.com.
He is not. So this he is not.
Sorry.
It's around the NFL.
There's an inside.
He gets enough promotion around here. He doesn't need Albert Breer too. Nonetheless, so taking a shot at the brother.
Good over-delivered, Kaplan.
Definitely. Just as an aside, our breakfast before the sushi dinner with Albert Breer, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, is that going to be the Tigers over the Cubs breakfast?
Yeah.
Tell me when.
Well, I mean, the idea that you're setting up, I mean, you could have texted him, but of course you had to put that on the air about you and Breer having sushi together, arm in arm. I would like for you to take care of us first, home.
How about tomorrow, 5 a.m. at Yoke?
5 a.m.? No, we're going to go to
I'll be
Yoke
there.
after the show.
Let's go 10:02 today.
I can't do that, actually. Unfortunately, I can't today. But tomorrow, 10:02, sounds great. I'll put it on my calendar.
F your podcast. We going to Yoke. Just computers on and the chair spinning.
Pat, the designer, is going to join us at Yoke. We're going to do the Chicago Bears podcast over breakfast.
Sure.
Week of the 21st, all in.
Okay. Just why don't you just take care of home first before you start, trying to get information out of Albert Breer. How about that?
Get information.
That's BS.
I hooked him up at that sushi place, and he said next time we got to go together.
Yeah. I think he said that. I think you said that.
He did.
I think you offered. That's for sure. Trying to milk information out of him. So what about this guy for the Bears? What about this guy for the Bears? Take that.
All right, let me record this recap. Here's the inside info.
No question. Because you can't get that from us because we're just the crew. But Albert Breer, oh man, 30 minutes of content.
That's it.
Yeah, that's how you do it, pal.
That's how you do it.
Use the people that is at your disposal.
Hoodie not for air, but he told me.
Yeah. That's right, Cap. That's how you do it. Just take care of home first, will you, pal?
Got it.
That's all I'm
I'm
asking.
just imagining me, Pat, the designer, at breakfast with us doing the Bears podcast at Yoke.
What's up? Pass me the salt. Pass me the pepper.
Rate, review, subscribe.
Rate, review, subscribe.
Shane, let's talk Bears linebackers. People are just trying to enjoy their breakfast.
Yeah. Kap and J Hood, weekday morning, 7